Battlefield 2042 may indeed have a long road ahead of it. Its Season 6 will apparently deliver something totally unexpected, and the next game in the franchise will be a reimagined experience. Battlefield has oddly been in the news a bit more recently. I think DICE is finally in a place where they feel comfortable talking about Battlefield 2042 in a less shameful way and more of a prideful way. GamesRadar has a new exclusive interview with Ryan McArthur, who's a senior producer on Battlefield 2042, and in the interview, it was interesting to hear more about what their journey was over the past 18 months. One of the trickier things to decipher from this website interview is when certain statements are made from the information that isn't necessarily being quoted directly. For example, the article mentions that there's a long road ahead for Battlefield 2042 and then dives into some quotes from Ryan that don't necessarily confirm this. To me, this is particularly interesting because long road ahead to me means that there's more than just another season of content. But annoyingly, the article only gives us vague descriptions of their plans for future support, not giving players any sort of idea on how many more seasons to expect. Was there more information communicated during this interview that would lead to such a conclusion that was later edited out? How could somebody say that there's a long road ahead when DICE hasn't confirmed any content beyond Season 6? And I think one of the more unfortunate approaches toward the longevity of this game is that DICE has been incredibly vague about their long-term plans, leaving many players guessing that support for the game will be dropped after each season of content is over. It's a terrible mentality to be in as a fan of the game, and it doesn't make me want to commit more time toward unlocking, progressing, and improving myself in 2042 if I'm not sure that there's going to be much more content around the corner. In contrast to this approach, I did a live stream interview with one of the BattleBit devs who was happy to share with me that funding-wise, they feel confident that they can actively work on supporting their game for at least 5 years. And that makes me want to play their game more and progress and commit more to the game because I feel like many years down the road, it'll still be relevant, supported, and fantastic. The vague approach to hyping content and non-committal wording from DICE to me says that they're constantly weighing the pros and cons of continued development and want to avoid any promises to the community so that they're free to drop support whenever they want. And this has been in the back of my mind pretty much ever since they began developing seasonal content. Now, in one of the last remarks from the interview, Ryan says this: "I think that Season 6 is going to be one of those really interesting moments where people are going to go, well, I didn't expect that, but that's really Battlefield." And I think that's kind of the thing we want to go after right now. How do we move forward and give our players more, but still Battlefield? Again, it's pretty vague language, and DICE has made a few slip-ups with these vague descriptions in the past. Like with Season 5 being hyped as sort of a throwback to a Battlefield 4 map, many players were anticipating a rework of a super iconic Battlefield 4 map, which was not the case. So here we're told that what we're getting will be unexpected. So I'll tell you what I would expect, and then maybe we can cross that content off the list. Another 2042 no-pat map and theme seems like the most predictable approach with their new content, basically what they've done with each season so far. Now, delivering a reworked classic map is less expected, but I wouldn't say totally unexpected. When players thought that the Season 5 map was going to be a rework, many awesome ideas were thrown around, like a Siege of Shanghai rework or something like that. But again, I wouldn't say it's unexpected. In fact, it feels weird that 2042 hasn't had any reworks for its base game map, only the Portal maps. Now, delivering a larger quantity of maps certainly would be unexpected, like 3 to 4 maps, which we would have gotten with previous DLC content on the past titles. Basically, what players used to be used to, especially falling in line with the "that's really Battlefield" quote from the interview. 3 to 4 maps per DLC is the norm from previous games. Now, if I had to guess what it means, I would say maybe a classic map rework like Siege of Shanghai or Wake Island, but I'm just guessing here because I can't really think of any other wild departures at this point in its development. DICE has done so much work to get the base design feeling good, and I can't imagine that they would take any major risks with the next season, but then again, who knows? Let me know in the comments if you have some better ideas about what this unexpected Season 6 would be. Now lastly, we have some quotes from Andrew Wilson in the recent EA Investors Call addressing the next Battlefield game, where he said, and I'm paraphrasing, "The next Battlefield game is going to be a reimagination of the series and feature a truly connected ecosystem." Again, leave it to EA to vague the heck out of the information that they're delivering. Reimagination could mean quite literally anything. I don't think it means they're going to reinvent the core gameplay because, well, Vince Zampella, who's in charge of the franchise, seems to be focused on the core aspects of what makes Battlefield Battlefield and returning the game to its roots. If you look at, say, Battlefield 1, well, that game could be considered a reimagination of the series, but I feel like maybe they're talking more about how the content will be delivered or accessed. The truly connected ecosystem sounds more like they're talking about how the different components of Battlefield will interact with each other. We know that there's at least 3 studios working on different aspects of Battlefield, from single player to the core experience to an entirely new multiplayer experience. Are they all going to ship as part of the same game? Will they be standalone experiences, or will they be interconnected in some sort of all-inclusive Battlefield ecosystem that's being alluded to here? It does seem smart to compartmentalize Battlefield and let players enjoy or even access different components at different price points. Like Battlefield 5's Firestorm Battle Royale mode is always brought up as a good example of how to kill a good game mode. It was locked behind Battlefield 5's full game paywall while other Battle Royales were going free to play at that time. So perhaps their more Royale or survival modes, which EA is probably still working on, will be more accessible in a free-to-play component that's still worked into the same Battlefield interface next to the classic experience. And it seems like it's becoming more obvious to have free access options to major games, as it works well as an onboarding experience. Rather than making potential players drop $60 to try out the game, it's a good way to let them try the game at a free entry point, and from there they have options to spend some money to get more involved. Now, as a fan of the franchise, I am all too familiar with EA's vaguism approach to hyping their content. It worked in the golden years of Battlefield when their reputation was solid and we knew that the content they were working on was probably going to be great. But now, after 2 underwhelming titles in a row that seem to forget how to make Battlefield games at their core and then spend a huge amount of their post-launch support redesigning those core experiences, I'm less excited by vague language, and especially in 2042's case, the article saying that the game has a long road ahead with no additional context is just annoying. DICE needs to commit to their content and let me know what's actually planned more in advance. And at least while they were fixing the game, players knew that all of these map reworks were planned out, and the class reworks were planned, and all these other features were planned, but not coming till a much later date. But now 2042's future is kind of a void. Apparently a long-roaded void, but a void nonetheless. The rest of the interview is somewhat interesting if you like game dev stuff, but again, it's a carefully talked about experience that avoids addressing the major problems that resulted in such a troubled launch. It's really more of the how we fixed the game and overcame the challenges. Nothing interesting about how 2042 was a last-minute pivot of a different game concept built around Specialist, and then crammed back into a more traditional Battlefield package. That's the real story that I want to hear about, the game 2042 was supposed to be, and how much time they had between pivoting and shipping. I bet that story is fascinating, but you can imagine that EA will likely never speak about that publicly. What do you guys think all of these vague statements actually mean for DICE's future? How much more 2042 content are we getting? How will Season 6 be unexpected? And does a reimagination of Battlefield's next game mean something drastic, or is it really more of a descriptor for how it's going to be accessed on the front end? Let me know in the comments, and next up, check out this video on coming back to Battlefield after playing a ton of BattleBit. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.